Hello, everyone, and welcome to this sunny Wednesday afternoon, sunny at least in the UK. Today, we're going to be talking about summer plans and everything that students might think about doing in their summers and why it's important or why it may not be as important as you think. And to help me in this, I've got a fantastic speaker, Victor Thomas, who is from the International Admissions Department of WashU, that is the Washington University in St. Louis, Missouri. Victor, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. It's wonderful to be with you today. Again, my name is Victor Thomas. I am Deputy Director of Admission at WashU. I have been on the admission team here for over 10 years, and I did my undergraduate bachelor's degree at WashU as well. So I've been here for about 15 years total. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah. Great. So I'm going to, well, actually, Victor, maybe we could start off just by you introducing WashU for those people who aren't as familiar with it. Do you want to spend a couple of minutes just talking about WashU and what it's all about?
Yes, that would be wonderful. Thanks, Jason. And I'll share my screen here. I have a few slides, but I'll go pretty quickly because I think the important thing to know about the college search is that it's just a starting point. A presentation like this is just a starting point. We really encourage you to explore our websites, our social media handles, reach out to us. Our contact information is on our website. We can also connect you with current students if that is a population that you want to learn from. Pictured here is the front of WashU's campus. The front of our campus is about 6 miles, 10 kilometers from downtown St. Louis. So we're not right in the middle of the city in the downtown area. But what you can see is that it allows us to have a wonderfully beautiful campus. We have consistently been recognized as one of the most beautiful campuses in the US. And I share that not because that is the most important thing in a college or university search, but because it is reflective of how we want to support students in their time at WashU and to make a space that is comfortable for them, that they call home, and that they really derive value from. So to just quickly go over the city of St. Louis, where we are located, St. Louis is the gateway to the Midwest and to the West in the United States. We're right on the Mississippi River. We're about a 2 to 2.5 hour plane ride from anywhere on the East Coast. Typically, that's where students from the UK would be connecting through. And there is just a wealth of opportunity to explore in a city like St. Louis. I like to think of St. Louis as having the opportunities and the resources of a large city, great places to visit, wonderful museums, many of which are free. So those resources, but the feel of a small city, one that you can get around easily. Our students get free access to the public transportation, which is wonderful and enables them to explore the city in lots of meaningful ways. I want to share a little bit about our community, the composition of our student body. And this is a little US-centric, but it gives you a sense of where students come from just one class from across the United States. WashU is a medium-sized school. So we have altogether about 7,500 undergraduate students and about as many graduate students that are dispersed on other campuses. The campus that you saw, the picture that you saw at the start of the presentation is our main undergraduate Danforth campus. As you can see, we have a healthy, a really strong population of students with international citizenships and many students who studied outside of the US for secondary school. We believe that all of these perspectives, these different backgrounds, identities, brings a lot to the WashU community and classroom. Speaking of classroom, our academics are structured like a larger research institution, but they offer the feel and the flexibility of a small liberal arts college. We have 5 academic divisions. We call them academic divisions. You can think of them as colleges or schools under the umbrella of the larger university, and they're listed here. There are 2 divisions, the Colleges of Art and Architecture under the Sam Fox School of Design and Visual Arts. when a student applies to WashU, they select one of these divisions to submit their application to, and that is the division that we will consider that student for admission to. What our students really value once they are at WashU is they have access to taking coursework and even earning second majors across different schools. So combining things like a degree in psychology in the College of Arts and Sciences with a second major in marketing in the Olin Business School. Very common, very popular type of crossover. Or perhaps maybe a student studying fine arts in the College of Art and just takes coursework and gets a minor in computer science in the School of Engineering. It's a very flexible academic environment. We also pride ourselves on providing what I believe is some of the best support and advising to our undergraduate students. We have an informal motto at WashU to know every student by name and story. So students, rest assured that once you are at WashU, it is a place that is supportive, that helps guide students through all the academic opportunities, and then helps prepare them for extracurricular opportunities. We have plenty of those, and ultimately career opportunities. So some of the extracurricular things that our students might engage in are studying overseas, student-run businesses, civic engagement and community service in the city of St. Louis. And that's on top of all of the clubs, organizations, societies that we have in addition. And finally, thinking about kind of the career prospects, we really want to emphasize to students that we have a wonderful career center. They have almost 100 career advisors who connect with students as early as their first year. It's not just students who are preparing to graduate, and they provide all the things that you would expect, things like internship and job fairs, practice interviews, that one-on-one advising, but they'll really help students kind of craft that pathway for post-graduation. And that leads to, in the high 90s of our 90% that is, of our students within 6 months of graduating from WashU have a path to either graduate school, further education, or kind of a career on the way. So again, a couple of the resources. I also want to note here, I'm reminded of some of the resources that we direct specifically to students who come from backgrounds where they may not have had as much exposure to interviews and internship opportunities. We want every student to see themselves as someone who can access these opportunities. And so we help students, buy a suit if they are interviewing for the first time, or cover the cost of plane tickets or train tickets somewhere where they might be having an interview. So we encourage you to connect with us. We have wonderful social media handles. All of the information that I just shared is on our website. So bookmark that, and I look forward to engaging with you, with students, and others in the future. Thanks so much, Jason, for this opportunity.
Thank you, Victor. Always nice to hear about WashU and hearing about a good reason to go to Missouri. I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully everyone will be able to see this. Can everyone see that okay?
Looks good.
Good, great. So we're going to be talking about summer plans today, and we're going to try and keep this fairly informal. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to pop that into the Q&A. We'll answer it as we go or at the end, whatever is appropriate. So let's get started. Okay, as usual, a little bit about us. We've been going over 10 years. We help students with all the parts of the process, and we help a lot of schools as well. So if there's any teachers on the call, then please feel free to get in touch with us about ways that we can help your school. Today, we're going to be talking about summer plans. And the thing that we really want to get across is what role do they play in US applications, and how do universities view them? A few different things we're going to talk about. There are lots of different ideas, more than enough to fill up several summers. Academic courses, co-curricular extensions, so things related to what you're doing in school, immersion or experiences, internships, sports, part-time work, application-related ideas, more on that in a moment, family and community, and then we'll sum things up at the end. But first of all, just wanted to talk and get your opinion, Victor, on why students should make summer plans at all. A few things that I've mentioned here are that we often in US applications, we talk about the need to think about your whole profile, not just what you're doing in school. So we always try to encourage students to think about what are they passionate about, what are they committed to, think about building skills they need for college, which will be things like critical thinking skills and problem solving skills and academic skills, learning skills. Thinking about this is a good use of someone might be to get ahead of things outside of school. If there's a lot to do in school, and certainly is in your last 2 years, getting ahead on things is not a bad idea. Being prepared for applications, particularly if you're a rising senior now, so someone going from year 12 to year 13, and curating a profile and a theme. Victor, is there anything else here that people should be thinking about?
Yeah, I think that this, Jason, really sums things up nicely. And I hope one of the overarching themes of this conversation is that this is going to look different for each individual student. And so as a student yourself, as an advisor, counseling a student, know that what another student is doing might not be what you need to do, and that's okay. There is no kind of right or wrong way to use your summer as long as you're using your summers, right? And by that I mean just not sitting on the couch and watching television or something. The other thing that I really like bullet point number 2 here, and sometimes I tell students that there is so much fixation. In fact, I actually use the frame of reference of just the phrase, the college application process. And specifically that word process to me invokes a kind of results-oriented mindset that I think clouds if you think about this final year of applying to university more as a search or a journey or an exploration, I think that broadens your your result. It broadens your kind of results orientation to develop, as that bullet point says, the skills that you need to land to be successful in university wherever it is you land, not just fixating on one specific outcome. So I really would like to kind of emphasize that, because critical thinking, independence, right? I know students who have gained independence through part-time work or living away from home for a few weeks, whether it be for a summer academic program or some sort of overseas program. But there's no really wrong way to use your summer as long as you're using it.
I can think that is good advice. And one thing that I always try to say to people is that you shouldn't be doing things that you don't enjoy. You should be looking for the things you do enjoy and working out how to show your skills or develop your skills within them.
Yeah.
So
and I'll even add, I agree, Jason, that don't do things that you don't enjoy, especially if you don't know that don't enjoy them on the kind of upfront. But also don't be afraid that one of the best kind of lessons that I learned through internships, and this was actually during my time in college, was that I had 2 internships, one the summer before my senior year and one the previous summer. And one of them I just really didn't like. I thought that I might enjoy going into kind of a social work capacity, and I did an internship and it just wasn't for me. And so I reflect on how finding out that I didn't want to do that through that internship was just as helpful as finding an internship that I really did like, and kind of helping me find that path forward. So it's okay to kind of experiment. But to your point, Jason, if you know that you don't like a particular type of activity, there's no reason to do it. It's not going to look any better for us on the application side.
Great. Well, one of the major things that people think about when they think about what to do in the summer is academic courses, academic options. And often, especially in the UK, we're very much taught that what really matters is how well you end up doing in your A-levels or IB. And naturally, that means that people start to think a lot about, well, what can I be doing in the summer to be even better than other people who are doing academics? So again, always try and tell people, look, you should only do them if they are really important to you or if they're really going to enhance your profile. And if you really enjoy them and there are academic things you want to do, then it could be good. Now, I want to run through a few different ideas here and things that are quite common when people look at this. First one, courses at universities. And those range from in-person courses. Lots of American universities do these. Similarly, online courses which might be live, so you're with other students, or might be asynchronous, where you're learning in your own time, maybe with some sessions where you catch up with a tutor. Hybrid courses where it's online with a few in-person sessions, and then courses which are for credit. And what that means is you actually get credit that you can take onto university to either credit out of something or to help with admission. What do you think, Victor? And here's a really important question. I'm going to pin you down on this because the most common question that people ask is, if I do a course with, let's say, Brown, which runs a lot of summer courses, if I do a course at Brown, how will that look to somewhere else like WashU? Well, if you see Brown on a list of extracurricular activities or academic honors, what do you think?
Yeah, it is, Jason, a really common question. And I think that there is sometimes a misunderstanding on two levels, right? That taking a course in the example that you just used at Brown either A, confers some sort of advantage to you in Brown's application process, or confers some sort of disadvantage to you in WashU's application process, or another school that is not Brown. And I am here to just say that that is absolutely neither of those things are true. More often than not, those summer programs are facilitated and operated by departments that are outside or separate from the university's admission office itself. There is, I think, occasionally value in doing something like that, like an in-person course at a university, to experience what being on a college campus is like, and to build some of those skills of collaborating with others over the summer, of interacting with faculty members. But I think that the most valuable thing that you can derive from an academic, and this kind of seems so obvious, is it engages you, it stimulates you intellectually. And so if you are doing something because it is making you more curious about studying a particular type of degree, or exploring, different courses maybe that you haven't had opportunity to engage with in secondary school.
Yeah.
I think one of the programs that are at WashU that we offer through the Sam Fox School, we have a fine arts program and an architecture discovery program, and I think that those programs are instrumental in helping students who might not be able to take an architecture class during the school year actually find that might be a type of degree that they want to apply for. Another benefit of those types of fine arts programs is that you often, after a summer, emerge with a portfolio.
More on that in a moment, actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay. More on portfolios in a moment. Great.
Yeah, but no, I think that's really good advice. There's lots of other sorts of courses that people can do. And just to kind of highlight what they are, private courses, what I mean by that are organizations that might run courses, perhaps sometimes in a university or some other institution, but still based around academics. You get a lot of these sorts of things at Oxford, for instance, where a private company is running it there. can still be really good and very useful. Those sorts of courses, the thing I like about them is not just the academic strengths that you're going to gain, but also the fact that you're interacting with other students and you'll learn from them. If you do a course, let's use Brown as an example again, you go to Brown and you study there and you meet other students and you think, not really sure I get on with this kind of student. That might be a good reason not to go to Brown, and you might work out why that is. Like what cultural reasons are there that you don't like that university? So it can be really useful from that front as well. Free online courses can sometimes be extremely good. So people sometimes refer to these as things like MOOCs, so massive online courses. MIT, for instance, is very famous for having a lot of free courses. Stanford does a lot of free courses that you can do. And there are lots on organizations like Coursera, where you can do these courses online and actually learn an awful lot about a subject that you might not get taught otherwise, and get a certificate to show that you've done it. I guess from your perspective, Victor, that just shows that someone is taking an interest in a subject, right?
Yeah, I think that often, again, it kind of shows up most valuably for us in the admission side of things in how a student chooses to write perhaps a supplemental essay about their academic interests. That the previous summer was a launching point for my interest in bioinformatics because I did this summer program, not because I did it specifically at this place, but because it engaged me intellectually.
Yeah. And what about programs and these are maybe not quite as well known, but there are some highly selective academic programs and I put some acronyms in here. There's the Yale Young Global Scholars Program, and then Johns Hopkins has the Center for Talented Youth. And these are often quite selective in that you have to sometimes submit, I think for CTY, you actually have to submit a PSAT or something to get in. What do you think about those sorts of programs? Does the fact that someone has been admitted to that sort of program look good for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I do think sometimes, depending on the selectivity of a program, there are kind of discernments that we might make in the application review, but really not beyond, for a couple of reasons, right? Not even some really fantastic students might not either know about CTY or similar programs and apply to them, or might apply and not be selected, right? And so, they still can demonstrate, and we don't want them to not be able to demonstrate their capacities in other ways. So again, I don't think that it's conferring a statistical kind of advantage necessarily in the individual application review, but it's something that, it can be noted in an application, and again, focusing on the experience itself is what I would remind students to do.
Great. And then finally, I have students not normally in the final summer, but sometimes in the summer before year 11, so before they're about to start their final GCSE year. Some students might do catch-up or revision courses in particular subjects. Yeah. One student this year, for instance, is doing Spanish GCSE, not his favorite subject, so is looking at doing a Spanish GCSE course or even just a Spanish immersion course over the summer to make it much easier for him when he goes into his final year. And I imagine that's useful anyway, Victor, because if you can improve your GCSEs, then that's good.
Yeah, and again, I think that is a decision that's good for certain students, and maybe not a good use of a summer for others.
Yeah. Now, I've put a separate slide here about co-curricular extensions, and this links into what you were saying about certain classes and courses might be useful to build other things that students might need for applications. So co-curricular, what I mean by that is things that are related to subjects you're doing in school. And this might be, I put an example there of an art camp where you go along in the summer and do a camp that's something you enjoy, but helps you build your skills in a subject that you're taking at school. Research projects are very common now, where students take part in some sort of research and they might write a thesis or paper. We do have to be a bit careful about that sort of thing. There have been a lot of things recently about basically people paying in order to get peer-reviewed or published. Have you heard much about that sort of thing, Victor? And are you wary of it?
Yeah, that's actually something that our team, we do a decent amount of training on understanding that that these opportunities, sometimes expensive opportunities, are not always first and foremost accessible to every student, right? If they cost a lot of money, we want to recognize that it is only an option for certain populations, but that they aren't as valuable as sometimes they're marketed to be. So it's a good distinction to make. I think that, again, it comes back to the experience, right? Like if you are deriving value from learning how to research and engage with others in a laboratory setting or a collaborative research setting, awesome, right? But not kind of the stamp of a particular research organization. I would not think of it as kind of conferring an advantage.
Yeah, great. One thing that I really like is when students take part in competitions related to things they enjoy doing. I had a student last year who took part in, I think it was like a 2 or 3 day engineering competition where they had to come up with something related to space. I think they were given a remit of coming up with, that was it. They had to come up with some idea about a life support system for getting people to Mars or something. And they had to build a prototype of this thing in a few days. The reason I really liked it is because A, they really enjoyed doing it. B, the competition element meant that they had to kind of work with a team, and they also developed skills really closely related to what they wanted to do, which was engineering. For you, Victor, how much do you care about whether people have won competitions or just taken part?
Yeah. We're not kind of tallying up or giving some extra points, unilaterally for winning a competition. But this could be a good thing for someone who's motivated by competition, who's motivated by kind of that almost external reward kind of reinforcement, and who enjoys that kind of experience. It's not something that some students would prefer to be in a more collaborative setting, right? So kind of centering again the experience and the enjoyment of the experience rather than the outcome, I think is the important thing about summer competitions.
And we mentioned earlier building a portfolio for those students who are interested in going into art or design, or things like architecture, or even students who might be submitting, some universities allow students to submit a building portfolio, they call it, where they've actually built something, put something together, or maybe a music portfolio. Using the summer to do that is a good idea because it's much harder to do it when you're in school.
Absolutely.
And sometimes people don't realize they get into the last year of school, they want to apply somewhere. It's been their dream always to apply to somewhere or other art school, and then realize they have to have a portfolio, and rushing to do that could be difficult.
Yeah.
One question I've got for you, Victor, is if someone is not applying directly for an arts program, but wants to submit a portfolio anyway, is that something that you would still look at?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. We get this often. And the reality, and I'm speaking for WashU, but also broadly for schools that have an application volume that simply will not allow us to pass every single one of those portfolios or compilations of recital kind of footage for performers, dancers, other types of musicians. We aren't able to ask our music and performing arts and visual arts faculty to review every single candidate who submits that kind of supplementary thing. We commit to reviewing those for, in our case, the visual arts, because that is a component required for students who are interested in studying art. We require a portfolio. I imagine that similarly, a music conservatory would commit to reviewing footage or recordings or auditions, right? That is not to say don't submit it, right? But know that the audience, when you submit it, might be someone like me who had, I dabbled a little bit in art, architecture, design, but I am not the Sam Fox professor of communication design or of sculpture. And so it might be an enjoyable component of the application for me to see a little bit of depth to your kind of interest, but it won't be kind of evaluated in a rubric kind of way, like it might be if you were actually applying to the College of Art.
Makes sense. And I should point out that for those students who do need to do a portfolio, there are some really great organizations and universities out there that will review people's portfolios for free before you actually apply. I know that Micah used to do this, Maryland Institute College of Art.
And yeah, we do it too. Yeah, there are national portfolio review days where you can actually, I mean, that is such a critical part, right, of an artist's process, is getting feedback. And that is something that we actually also want students to be prepared for, that in our art program once they get here, is to be able to solicit feedback and to receive it in a constructive way. And sometimes that's a good way to jumpstart that. Yeah.
Great. Other things that students can do: free lectures. There's loads of them in London. For instance, you go along to the universities and watch them online. Classes and clubs you want to get involved in, like drawing classes or clubs related to interests you have, always good idea. And finally, reading. I think students forget, you're made to read so much at school, you forget that you can do it for pleasure as well. Yeah. So read around your subject, read things you enjoy, and write down when you've read books. I think you're going to be doing a lot of it in college. Okay, slightly related to these courses, I wanted to just cover a few ideas of immersion courses, just to let people know what options are out there. Because it doesn't have to be an academic course. It can also be a course that's just experiential. So you get courses, a bit like Camp America, summer camps where you go along and you do lots of different activities and have fun and meet people and get to experience America. Some universities do kind of immersion experiences at the university just for a week or two, where you just get to know the university. Again, have some different activities you can do with people. And some universities do courses where you can just kind of dabble in different things to find out what you like. Victor, is this generally a good idea for students who just want to get a taste for what life is like in America and at university?
Yeah, I think, if your circumstances allow you to, and this is something, again, that you want to do and want to experiment and try out, I think that I was alluding to this earlier, the experience of taking, a summer course at a university is more than just the academic content that you experience. You get to feel the campus, you get to connect with others that you might have as future classmates. You get to explore the city or region that a university or college is located in or near. So I think that there are definitely kind of experiential benefits beyond just the academic piece.
Great. Okay. Let's talk about internships.
Yeah.
This is always a big thing. People want, I have this all the time with particularly parents who I think might talk to other parents, and there's a little bit of, oh, well, that person's child is doing an internship at that company, my child has got to do that too. And my sense of it is that these are massively over-egged, that the idea of an internship is good if you're getting experience in something you enjoy and it's related to what you might want to do in the future. But I think a lot of people are doing internships because they feel they have to, and are not actually learning that much in the internship. And I do have a fear, maybe you can correct me if my fear is wrong here, but I have a fear that an internship on a resume looks a bit like, it smacks a little bit of privilege, because most internships come through people that you know. It's very hard actually just to apply to a company and ask for an internship. When you see internships on an application, what do you think, Victor?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point, Jason, that I hadn't thought about in terms of access. I was gonna I thought that you were heading down the route of it smacks of privilege because it is often an unpaid
Mm,
experience. And
definitely.
when I was in high school, I scooped ice cream during my summers. I needed to work.
Yeah.
And many students I think can really develop some great skills in work
Mm,
environments outside of a formal internship setting. So internships, again, it comes back to whether this is an experience you're enjoying and learning from, deriving some value from, and not just that it has the kind of title of internship before it. I think to your point of having access to certain internships because of connections, that we see that pop up occasionally, and we I don't think that we dismiss it necessarily, because sometimes that's just what a student has had the opportunity to be exposed to. But to your point of it might not be something that the student had to really kind of hustle to obtain.
mm,
And so it's not it's just a way that they've kind of landed into their summer. Yeah.
yeah. Great. I agree with that, and I think, well, I don't want to be too negative about it, because I think
Same.
there is a career that a student is really interested in, or they want to get skills, let's say in marketing or something that they don't have. Internships can be really useful, and you can get experience through working in a company. So I would never say don't do it, but I normally say to parents, don't place too much importance on it, because there are probably other things that are better use of someone's time, like part-time work that we'll come on to. I want to talk a little bit about sports, because there will always be people who are thinking about sports scholarships, and that needs some very careful thinking. Now, depending on what year it is, but in that summer, they might need to think about just doing sports in order to improve their rankings, to do competitions, to have the sports resume they need to approach coaches, especially if you're going for a sports scholarship at a D1 college like WashU. So there are other things, though. If you enjoy sports and it's going to form a major part of your profile, and something you're going to use to show your passion and commitment in the application, doing things like sports camps can be really good. But again, if you need to talk to coaches, you might need to visit the campuses and meet the coaches. Victor, WashU is a D1 college. What is your advice for people who are thinking about sports scholarships?
Yeah. So quick kind of clarification. We are Division 3, but I think that we kind of compete at the Division 1 level in some respects. Division 3 just means that we don't offer actual scholarships for athletics.
Take
And
it
that
all back. I'm sorry.
yeah, no problem. But I think that this is a really important topic to have a little bit of perspective on. As you said, Jason, many college teams, athletic departments, coaches, they host either on their campuses camps as part of their recruitment efforts, or they attend camps and showcases at other places as part of their recruitment efforts. So there is, if you are interested in pursuing a particular athletic experience in university, there is a lot of value in actually attending these things to make connections with potential coaches.
Yeah.
The percent, though, and I don't know what the exact percent is, but if you just kind of think about the capacities of athletic teams at the college or university level, and the number of students who are competing for those spaces across all secondary school teams, it's a minority of students who ultimately will go on to compete at the university level. So having that perspective, I think, helps you really, again, lean into this as a networking opportunity, as a way of staying in shape too, certainly, but it doesn't guarantee a particular outcome.
No, and I think you need to be very careful if a student is thinking about sports scholarship at a D1 college, or thinking about really leveraging being on a team to get in to help their application chances. There's a lot to get right on this. So I do want to say, if anyone's thinking about that, please get in touch with us, and we can try and help you through that process. And you do generally need to think about this quite early, and you don't want to underestimate how difficult it is and how competitive it is for some sports. But nevertheless, if you are interested in sports, speaking as someone who loves sports are great. They also allow you, because people get in this process of applying to America, they often think of it like a list of check boxes that you've got to have leadership, you've got to have volunteering, you've got to have all these other skills. And sports actually allows you to check a lot of these things off. And you can do that at the same time as doing something you really love doing. So sports are great from that perspective. And if you love playing sports, by all means, play it over the summer. Another big thing we talked about was part-time work. I love part-time work. Like you, Victor, I have been working since I was a child. And my first job was a paper round, and I had to do that to get my pocket money. My summers were spent doing part-time work in a supermarket or other things like that. My experience of talking to admissions officers like you is that part-time work looks really good because it shows that you're able to turn up on time for something and work hard at something. You can take responsibility for things and for other people and yourself. And it proves that you're trying to work hard towards potentially getting money for college.
Yeah, I think that this is actually the of all of the kind of types of summer experiences that you've laid out here, Jason, I'd venture to say that part-time work is the kind of grouping of a summer experience that when I am in an admission committee, I hear the most kind of advocacy around, check out what this student was doing because they had to earn some money over the summer, because they wanted to, kind of develop some financial independence. And also, they might not have chosen to do part-time work for this reason, but think about all the benefits that are being conferred from showing up every day, working with other people, having a customer service kind of oriented disposition. I think that part-time work is, and it's something that we want students at WashU and in college to be comfortable, working 10 hours a week outside of their academics, whether that be at the student center or the rec center. We have an art museum on campus, and so some students actually are docents at the art museum. Sometimes research can be a part-time work, a paid endeavor here. So, and we have admission interns. So part-time work really, I think, is of everything that you've laid out here, is something that I would probably nudge just a little bit up in terms of how favorably it might be viewed, maybe relative to how people think it would be viewed.
I think that's really good to hear, really aligns with what my suspicions were about it and my personal thoughts about it. And also being in the position of seeing a very wide range of students from, and I'm sure you see the same, from very, very privileged and wealthy students down to students who will need full need when they go to university. And seeing how much of a difference work actually makes to someone's application, how important it can be to some people, but also what they learn from it, how it makes them interact with other people. I think totally really big thing.
Yeah, and if I may draw a comparison to internships earlier, I mentioned I had 2 internships. One of them was just not a fit, and I persevered through that summer, but I just ruled out working in social work as a future post-graduation opportunity. The other internship was a little bit more kind of in the education communication space, which is where I am now. But I learned more scooping ice cream and interacting with customers and managing other staff members than I did at either of my internships. So
it also really builds empathy. If you work
Mhm.
in a public-facing role, then it really gives you an understanding for what people in that role, what their life is like, and what they're going through. So when you interact with those people from the other end, maybe you'll be a nicer customer. Right, a couple of slides left. The main thing on this slide that I want to talk about, because I first of all want to reiterate that spending time with your family and friends in the summer is important. But life is not just about getting through college and getting a job. It's about your the time you spend with your family and other people that are important to you. And equally, traveling. You shouldn't think, I don't want to travel because it looks bad on a CV. If you like traveling and want to interact with other cultures, do it. It's fun. It's not a bad thing to do. But the real thing I want to talk on here is about the community aspect, and a big part of people's checklists for applying is volunteering. When it comes to volunteering and choosing volunteering opportunities, Victor, what sort of things do you think students should be thinking about?
This is a good question. Again, at the risk of sounding too redundant here, I think A, it's different for every student, and B, it should be something that you enjoy or feel some sort of connection to, because I think that allows you to make the most out of a volunteering experience, that you are doing it because you want to be there. If you are, kind of just forced to do a volunteer experience because your parents have some sort of connection and that's what they want you to do, it is going to be the most miserable, time spent over a summer. And I think that volunteering can really have, it can really open, to your point about developing empathy too. I think that volunteer experiences, require you to work alongside others and to kind of understand stories, and we actually think about community service. Here's one way to think about it. Our community, we used to have a community service office like many colleges and universities do. And about 10 years ago, they actually retired the name Community Service Office, and they rebranded as the Community Engagement Office. And the thinking there was that community service can feel sometimes like I've got to show up to do this. My parents asked me to do it, or I feel like I need to do it. It's a one and done thing. I go work on the weekends, do the project, and then kind of return back to my daily existence. And rebranding as the Community Engagement Office, I think, really instilled the value of learning yourself, not just serving and volunteering, but learning about a community, sustaining a partnership with a community or an organization, and really, getting something out of that experience as much as you are giving.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. My advice for students and families on this is you shouldn't think of it as something that you've just got to do. You should think about, what do you think is important to you, and find opportunities within that. And again, find opportunities within things you love doing. Sports is an easy one. If you love playing soccer, an easy thing to do is to teach soccer to other people. That is volunteering. You're giving up your time, and you're giving up time to show people skills that you found important, and you're passing on the skills that you've learned to other people. So don't take it so seriously that you think, I must do this and it's got to look really good and I've got to cure cancer this summer or I'm not getting in.
Totally.
But think of it in terms of, how can I give back my time in a sensible way? And finally, an obvious use of summer, especially your last summer, is getting ahead on applications. And many of our students who are going from year 12 to year 13 now, a lot of their summer will be spent doing things like building their college lists, and should really have them pretty finalized, writing their college essays, and in many cases visiting campuses if they haven't done already, and demonstrating interest. And just to talk about what that means, interacting with universities and learning about them, reading their newsletters properly, and in some cases talking to admissions officers if you've got questions. SAT and ACT prep, it's probably a bit late if you are a rising senior now. You probably should have done that a year before. But so if you're going from year 11 to year 12, now is a great time to get ahead on that if that's an appropriate thing to do. It's not always, so do talk to us about that. But it's really important to be prepared for the applications. Leaving it till the beginning of year 13 will make your life very close to being a misery, because you're going to be very much involved with getting on with your A-levels at that point. And in an ideal world, what I always say to students is, if you can get your applications pretty much finished by the beginning of September, all you have to do from then on is get on with your A-levels. That's all that matters. And it's very hard actually normally to get to that point because things just happen. But the sooner you can get stuff done, the better. And Victor, do you have any final points on that?
Yeah, I think that this is brilliant advice. I think starting early, here's what it allows you to do. It really helps center this idea of exploring university options as opposed to finding that one place that you have your heart set on. It's okay to have a first choice. I'm not saying don't have favorite places, but approaching this search, this journey with an open mind and a kind of a spirit of exploration. Visiting campuses doesn't have to be in person. It could be virtually. There are lots of great virtual tours that students can take now. And then a quick mention of why starting early on the college essays is useful. I mean, again, this probably goes without saying, but I really encourage students to be okay with scrapping an entire idea if you get a better one, right? And the only way that you're going to be able to do that, good writing takes a long time. And sometimes the final product is like unrecognizable from what it started out as. The topic could have changed completely, and you don't want to be starting that in September and not have the opportunity to just confidently say, you know what, this was a good essay, but I've got a better idea, and I am comfortable scrapping this essay idea because I know that starting it early helped me get to this even better idea. So don't be afraid to kind of toss out that first draft, especially if you start early, and that's why that is really important.
Great. And I think that's a good place to finish and just open it up to questions. Feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box. I've just put a little bit up here about things that we can help with. They're my contact details. And for teachers, there's events coming up, including our teacher training. If anyone ever wants to get in touch with us, we've got that free call link. Courses and stuff over the summer if you want to. Diagnostic tests for SAT and ACT. But does anyone have any questions for myself or for Victor or for anyone about summer plans or things that we haven't put up? I think we've got a question here. We have a question from Lonnie. Said, hi Victor, I wondered, besides part-time work, have you seen any summer activities on applications that really stood out to you as unique or outstanding?
This is a great question, Lonnie. Kind of bucketed, I do think that part-time work does stand out, but I think that, again, it comes back to how students write about the impact that a summer experience had. In the US, there's often students who are engaging in kind of supporting, whether at the local level or even the national level, campaigns for either political candidates or candidates for elected office or particular ballot measures. I've actually read a number of news stories recently about students in the state of Montana who have been really active in their kind of climate activism, basically, at kind of the local government level. And I think that can have a transformative impact on, what a student might ultimately want to study at university. So again, coming back to this idea of how does this experience translate into the future as opposed to just be something that I've checked off. Yeah, I don't know if that fully answered your question, Lonnie, but yeah.
I think that's great advice. And obviously some students will come into this process with through no decision of their own, some really incredible experiences.
Yeah.
And writing honestly about them in the application can be quite powerful.
Yeah. Sometimes I get jealous, actually. Like, and again, I think that there are sometimes this is a good thing to instill in students that, you know, summers aren't forever, right? And I've seen students write about or include in their application that they, you know, learn how to cook with a whole bunch of different types of foods or vegetables over the summer. Students who take outdoor trips, like hiking trips and stuff like that. Again, sometimes this is opportunities that certain people have access to, but you know, following your heart and kind of your enjoyment, I think is critical.
Great advice. And my memories of school summers were spent standing outside in the sun playing cricket or football for days on end. And I think that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
Great. I think we'll leave it there. Again, if anyone wants to speak to us, there's always a free call link there to spend some time with me or Martine or Simon or one of the rest of our team. But all that remains for me to say is big thank you to you, Victor, for giving up your time. And Victor, you've already put your contact details up, and I'm sure if anyone has any questions for you, they'll get in touch.
Yeah, please reach out to Jason. My contact information is on WashU's website. It's been a pleasure to be with you today, and hope that you derived something new, learn something.
I'm sure we've all learned a lot. I certainly have. Thank you, Victor, and see you all soon.
Bye-bye.